Hello and welcome to Clockwork Dungeon Needles, the channel where Becca continues to break down anime. Ohio gozaimasu, we're back with Zombieland Saga. Before we get going, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. There have been many disruptions to the schedule, so videos are going up left, right and centre. I have got some new stuff that I'm planning to release on the channel soon, so make sure you are subscribed. There is also a Discord channel for you guys to check out, hang out. You can talk to me, you can lurk, you don't have to say anything. You just get notified whenever videos go up on the channel. It also allows you to see if there are delays on the channel, and I get to ping my ideas at you guys to see if I think they're a good idea or not. So much cool stuff coming your way. Hello, thank you guys for being so supportive over the past week. It has been a long journey. We are slowly getting there now. We are here, Zombieland Saga episode 3. Today's episode, I enjoyed this episode a lot more than last week. It's our I and Junko episode. And I love how these two have kind of been rolled into one episode, but it really works. I is a character who, unlike the other, she is the most recent idol who passed away. Excluding Sakura, because obviously Sakura is the most recent, but she wasn't really an idol per se. So I is the most recent idol who passed away. And of course, she was that member of Iron Frill back in the day. She's still ahead of the game. We get to see her quite often enough being just a step ahead, always being on it. She's always been shown to be the one who's got the best skills or the most training, which makes sense. But I do like the fact that she still gives likes to Iron Frill's work. It doesn't put her off. She hasn't been put off by the fact that, she missed out. She doesn't feel any negativity towards them, but she does give them a like on their video. You can, in the first sequence, hear Kotaro yelling at Tai to not eat something in the background, which does bring us to the question of, will Tai ever awake? Will she ever not be a zombie anymore? Because a lot of the running gags when it comes to Zombieland Saga is because we've still got that zombie in the background who's eating things, or she's chasing flies in this episode. This week, we really get to lean in heavily on I being our voice of reason, her reality, the way that she kind of snaps everybody back into it. It's great that we're all starting to see Fran Choo Choo getting more work, getting more stuff going on again, but you can't take it for granted. Don't become complacent. Naturally, she is the most trained and more experienced in the modern arts. There are obviously all the other idols are idols still, and they all know how to kind of do their crafts, but I is the most recent from the modern entertainment industry. So it's great to see that she's still in tune with the modern industry. It hasn't kind of gone too far ahead, but she always does look that one step ahead of the rest. The question will be is if the others can catch up and support her, or be supported as they try and catch up, or whether she's going to eventually get frustrated by the gap. This is that kind of trope that sometimes happens in idol animes, and I was expecting it to happen at some point. All of the events leading up to the big decision that she's going to have to make next episode. Kotaro is my favourite character, who really is just amazing. The way that he just pulls along the plot, picks them up, and he's always there. His amazing personality. His personality really does keep us on the ball, which probably makes it very different from most of the idol animes where the producer is a little bit vanilla. In a sense, they're quite boring. I like the fact that he comes in as a drill sergeant this week, and we get him trying to shoot the zombies. Maybe an Easter egg for some zombie game out there, but he does essentially run out of ammo, so perhaps he loses the game. But we've got to appreciate the fact that he seems to really have some connections. He has a lot of connections somehow, and he's actually able to pull a opening act for the girls, so they can be the opening act as Iron Frill indeed is coming to town. But with a twist of fate, but something I also predicted might happen, I is going to be sitting this one out. It makes sense on both sides. It makes sense to have her in it because this is her old group. She can also motivate them. But at the same time, apparently she's too recognisable. Despite the fact that they've already performed together, which is a bit of an odd one, it does feel like Kotaro is testing her, because we do see him honing in on her when she's teaching the girls and trying to get them all into order. Kotaro may have also recognised this as well. He probably wants the rest of the girls to try and catch up, give them a chance to shine, perhaps removing their pillar of strength they are able to fall on. And we're going to start bringing Junko as well, so Junko's going to be able to shine this episode, removing I and allowing her to do her own thing, and at the same time her doing other work is beneficial for her. But it does feel a little bit sad, because it would have been a nice moment of seeing her supporting her old group. Seeing I performing her solo jobs, however, is also part of what a idol does, so this is probably natural for her. She's probably done this kind of work before. I can imagine Iron Frill do get split up occasionally to go and do work on their own. It allows her to focus individually on her own strengths, her weaknesses, but it also allows the group to try and catch up. They start to realize how important I is to them when she's not around anymore. But it's going to allow I to try and shine and promote the band at the same time, because we do see a lot of offers starting to come in for I, which do get rejected, but it shows us that she is getting interest outside of Saga. However, putting her on the spot in front of TV, doing all this promo work, it still puts her in the spotlight for people to recognise her. And we know the fact that there are people out there who are starting to notice that these guys do look a little bit like old idols. So we're starting to raise the stakes and some tension. I and Kotaro start to build their relationship this week as well. I has always not really been a fan of the way he runs, the way he operates. She's always the one who actually stands up to him. Normally, if he's like spraying them with water or pestering them, she will be the one to slap him and put him back in his place. But he does as well confirm that he is trying to allow the others to step up. So, they'll be fine on their own. They've got Junko, don't you trust her? It's the whole kind of idea that you need to trust the people around you, which is probably the lesson he's trying to teach I. So I believe he's trying to teach both the group and both I different lessons. I do think that I and Kotaro are much more similar than I'd like to admit. Going into our Junko bit of the episode, seeing her struggling with more inner turmoil. Junko is an idol who was solo. She didn't need to be in a group. She was a solo artist and she's good at being that. But she is obviously the next most skilled to help them out. But this is her struggling to lead people, struggling for her to try and reach the standards that I is, because she looks up to I. But I does get a really nice rendition of Returner. But this acts as a wake-up call to Junko, telling her that you need to be trying harder. We can't just be sitting, allowing I to do all the work. She has to pull her weight too. Now, I's presence is still being felt, even with I and Frill nowadays, who have obviously lost their centre. They still mention to their interview that they hope that their centre is still watching over them. With the girls finally arriving in Saga, our stakes starting to rise. We get to see Junko start to be more and more nervous. The opening act rarely compares to the main event itself, but there have been occasions where people will say, I preferred the opening act, or the opening act has a better performance, a better stage presence. There's been a gig I've been to where I actually preferred the open to the main event, but I think I was more of a fan of the band that was supporting the main event, so perhaps a little bit biased on that sense, but it does happen. So there have been occasions where the supporting act does do better. Seeing Junko and her inexperience with technology is a really cute moment. It also allows us to age her, because she's come from a little bit more in the past where perhaps tech wasn't as prominent as it is today. So she's not quite good, and her trying to type it and then she can't quite understand what she's done in Google. Really like that moment. It's a nice little touch as well. And you can see that she's struggling because she's trying desperately to find a way to help the band, help them make an impact. A cappella franchuchu. I don't know what happened in this little segment, but it worked. It actually looked really pretty fun and quite entrancing. But if they were to go on stage with this, it would make an impact, but it wouldn't make the impact they're trying to leave. But it does seem that the girls may have hit a little rock bottom moment where their desperation has gotten the best of them. Going into perhaps a nice little shining moment, I had her song this episode. Junko also gets a guitar solo and her own singing. Really love it. I like the song and it sounds dated. I like the fact that the song feels a little bit aged to show you that Junko is from a different time period of entertainment. She's from the past where she even says this was played all over the advertising. Nowadays, it's not as frequent to see bands supporting TV ads. More or less that they will probably pick a song which is a bit older, like Queen gets used repeatedly. They tend to pick a song, but they don't actually hire people to sing for an ad. But it's a beautiful, quiet moment. I love the sunset. We see Junko telling Sakura about, this is how I got on stage. This is the song that I sang. This is how she rose into fame. The fact that impact doesn't have to be over the top. Sometimes we think about the word impact and think it has to be big. But sometimes in a environment that is noisy, suddenly going to silence can have an impact too. So doing the opposite can be impactful. Junko her strength is working solo, so she doesn't quite know how to work as a group. But this is the lesson she's trying to be taught by perhaps Kotaro indirectly. The fact that her solo skills can be transferred to help people and that they are one group. They can't just be relying on one person. They have to come together and put their strengths into play. Last twist with Iron Frill finally approaching I did think though, these two have definitely met. And I also remember these two meeting and it being a little bit salty, a little bit spicy. They rubbed each other up the wrong way. The key point here as well, she has had her eye on Franchuchu, meaning that they have made an impact for better or for worse. And she has noticed them. So a pro has noticed a small band from Saga, but she seems to have noticed them for the wrong reason. I is standing miles ahead of the rest of the group and she's noticing it. I think as well it's because I was part of Iron Frill. So the moves, the way she trains, the mannerisms, everything, her energy is probably still in tune to Iron Frill. So each band has its own, idol group will have its own kind of moves, its own kind of vibe. She still probably has the Iron Frill vibe, which they're picking up on because it makes sense that they would notice these. Aside as well the identical look that she is to their old centre, they'd noticed the fact that she has that kind of vibe that fits with their group. I is asked to rejoin. This is our big moment. This is us really raising the stakes. But aside the fact that she is a zombie and she probably can't join even if she wanted to. But it's a very big offer because if she was to pick it up, she essentially could pick up her work back where it stopped when she died and she could continue with her life. She could continue with her goals. So this is a really big moment for her. It is now a battle to show that Franchuchu can have the potential to upstage Iron Frill. If Iron Frill is so confident that they cannot be topped, and then suddenly we see that perhaps Franchuchu, a band out of nowhere, is able to maybe even upstage them even a little bit, I might realise that there is potential for Franchuchu to go even further than she could with one group, and she may not even need them. If she was to rejoin Iron Frill, there's already a centre, so she probably wouldn't even be retaking the centre role. It would be impossible for her to rejoin without telling them she's a zombie. So next week is going to be the Battle of the Idols. Really can't wait. We're really raising the stakes and it's quite early on into the anime too. It's a really good episode. It builds up two of our good idols who are quite similar in the sense that they are both successful idols back in their day. We're setting up a situation where we can see the forward momentum in the story with the group getting a push, going a bit further, trying to overcome their traumas of failure. Can the group overcome that failure of a gig? We're also now raising the stakes with the possibility that we could lose I. So hopefully the group will realise that they need to really get into their game if they don't want to lose I to another group. I really like it. The stakes are really rising. Today's episode was better than last week's, I think. Really enjoying the second season of Zombieland Saga. Having some fun with it. It's quite a nice, relaxing anime to get down with. And it's always got those fun moments of the characters just being crazy and off the wall. Can't wait to see what happens next week. I've got a few theories that I think I was never considering the offer, but we will see what happens. It's going to be fun. Can't wait to see what happens to our girls next week. Make sure you guys are taking care of yourselves. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a good day, guys. Bye-bye.